YouTubes. I don't know if this is going to work, but what I decided to do quickly rather than okay, yesterday Etsy did the Etsy Up webinar, and in that they gave loads of advice, but specifically a lot of people are asking me to explain the SEO fraction of it. Obviously, as an Etsy coach, I work with eRank, I've worked with Etsy Shop Camp, Etsy University. I've done lots of things there. And I totally understand that these kind of webinars, they try and hit all angles, being kind of giving advice for everybody, and most people on Etsy aren't people who are watching videos like this and trying to learn, so some of it can be a bit basic. But at the same time, in a live interview, well, in a pre-recorded live interview, if that makes sense, sometimes what's going to happen is people will misspeak or not speak as clearly as they should, or they might let little nuggets of information slip out. So I've been asked to look into this, and I was screen recording, I was trying to sort everything out in my head, and then I thought probably the best way to do this right now is to go into it and listen to it together, and I can stop it and explain what I'm seeing. Um, and hopefully this will work. I've never actually done a sort of live reaction to a video before, but I think it's the best way because I was going through pages and pages of notes, and you want answers right now. I totally get that. So this is rather weird. We've got about 45 minutes before my friend Starla Moore goes live on YouTube. So we'll try and get everything covered before then. And this will, because it looks like it's live now, this will be a replay that you can come back to. But we're going to try and play the video and chat about what we're seeing in the video. So first things first is I literally have no idea if the sound is going to show for this. So firstly, if I hit play here, guys, can you let me know if you hear, if the volume's okay and everything? So I'll do that first. Right, hopefully just done that much just now. We'll go back to it in a second, but let me know, could you hear that? Were the volumes okay for that? And I'll see if there's anything I can do to fix. I assume that it shows volume. If it doesn't, then we'll have to think about this. I see a few of you have caught me. Thank you so much. I literally just had the idea to do this just now, so everybody that's pounced on, thank you so much. That is so cool. So I'll just say hello to all of you, and then hopefully the chat. Oh, everyone's saying can't hear. How do I make it hear? Right. Is there a way? Drat. Can't hear. Oh, this is going to be a total pain. Unless I can just explain what they're saying. This is supposed to, how do I get the volume on? Oh, because it works when I'm recording this. Can't hear, guys. Oh, what a pain. I thought I'd found a cheaty way to do this quickly. I'll try one more time. That is very annoying. Ooh. Okay. I'm back again. It's not on mute. I don't have options for volume, which is an absolute pain. Hang on. There might be a different way I can do this. Hang on. Right, hold on. If I take that away... Ooh. Okay. Let me try this. Now, this might be funky. Right.
Maybe you want to go with commas.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Andrew, anything to add there in terms of Etsy research?
That is
Right. Can you guys hear that? I've put it up a different way. I'll hold off a little bit, but we have. If this works, then I'm super happy. This should be actually physically playing from YouTube. But anyway, we've got Susie Q. Hello there. It has been so long. I do live with other people so often. It's so long since I've gone live on my own channel. So Susie Q, hello. Alpha Patel, Cam Steel Art, lovely. Addie loves my shirt. Thank you so much. I just did a massive online shop because I'm going on holiday very soon and I got a load of stuff in and I'm excited. We're getting a perfect. Yes, I found a way around. Oh, genius or lucky. Okay, so we're on, guys. We can do this. So for anyone that missed this, this was an Etsy up yesterday. It was about an hour and a half long. I'm going to say boring. It wasn't as boring as the last, but there was loads of snippets, but everyone wants to know about the SEO bit more than anything else. So this is 30 minutes. I'm not sure what we can skip through and everything, but let's go into it. I'll play it. We'll skip bits when needed. Let's see where she's just introducing people, so we don't need that. That's probably a good place. Let's go for
Tips
it.
for how Etsy's
Wonderful sellers and their products.
Thank you so much for being here, Ratish. Andrew.
Oh, I skipped ahead slightly. I watched this bit, right. I was told it was a Google person and an Etsy person, but it is. I wrote this down when I was taking notes. Ratish, this guy that I just interrupted and didn't let him introduce himself, is the Google head of SEO at Etsy. So he's not a Google person. He's an Etsy person, but works on the Google-ness, if that makes sense. Google. I just make up words.
Having me. My name is Andrew Stanton. I'm the product director here at Etsy for search. My teams are responsible for all aspects of the search experience, which includes the user experience that buyers interact with on a day-to-day basis, all the way down to the algorithms, which choose which listings to show in which order on the page.
Okay, so that's the two people we've got. They're both Etsy employees. One of them is the head of SEO for Google on Etsy. So he's the one trying to make our Etsy listings readable by Google, basically. And Andrew is the product director for Etsy Search. They're just... Oh, okay, right, I have to do this. Like, all through this, I got so distracted because these two guys just seem to be having such a little romance. They absolutely adore each other. It's quite sweet. Anyway, that's just something I saw. This is the first bit that I've watched through a few times, so I've made some notes so I can skip through it a bit. He's just going to mention what the Etsy search algorithms is, which we've covered a million times. It's query matching, where the algorithms find everything that has the right kind of words that are nearly going to be that it thinks this might have something to do with what the person searched for, and then ranking, which is putting it into rank order, which we know that. So they talk about two phases on Etsy. I disagree. There's three. There's the query matching, that's finding everything that has the similar words that might be the same thing. Then there's ranking, and then there's the third one, which I believe is personalization. So you've ranked it, and that's what the Etsy API shows, but then it's the added layer that adds the personalization. Anyway, that's my feeling, but that does mean we can skip ahead a little bit because I don't want to cut into Starla's time, but I want to cover everything here. So we will come to this bit, which is they're asking about to explain how search works. So let's listen.
Can you both do a quick high-level overview of how search works? We'll start with you, Andrew, and discuss Etsy, and then Ratish will discuss Google.
Wonderful. So let's take a step back for a second and talk a little bit about Etsy holistically. It's what we call a two-sided marketplace, which means we have buyers on one side and sellers on the other. And those sellers have produced 110 plus million products on Etsy for buyers to purchase. Now, matching the right buyer to the right product is a hard task, and that's where search comes in. We're trying to understand what a buyer is interested, what the mission.
Okay, I'm trying to find a way to make him speak faster. There's nothing there. Yeah, we know. The whole idea is it's finding the right thing for the buyer. This is an interesting thing. I am going to skip quite a few bits of this. The point of Etsy search is to find the customer that's searching for things, the right item to buy. The point of Google search, now I'm adding my own translation onto that. That's what you're here for. The point of Google search is when someone searches on Google, they want a page that they go to that satisfies them. We'll find more about that later. So what Google does is it crawls the internet to find content, basically. So it crawls the internet, it indexes the internet, and it ranks the pages that it sees there. But they'll get more into that, but we'll skip ahead. I'm sure there is a way to make YouTube videos run faster, but I think the way this is shown. Oh, can I move me for a second? Oh, that's not good. No. Okay. I just want him to speak like double speed so we can get through this in 15 minutes or more because I'm talking to. But anyway, let's skip ahead so we know about that. Let's get into the juicy stuff.
They are on.
Thank you both. It sounds like Etsy search and Google search follow the same sort of principles. Can you both confirm? And then also, I want to ask you about conversion rate specifically and how it impacts search results. So
I'm so glad they asked about conversion because I hear about this all the time, and there's been a couple of people, big influencers, talking, gonna say lies, misinformation about this. So Etsy does clear it up.
Ratish, let's start with search.
Sure. Conversion rate on Etsy.com really doesn't affect rankings on Google.com, but engagement and the way how users engage with the content, like the images or the videos that are posted on listing pages, does matter. For example, if somebody is searching on Google, they came to Etsy.com, one of the shop page or a listing page, they didn't find what they were looking for, they bounced back or clicked the back button on Google and went back to the search result, that can affect negatively on your ranking.
So I'm glad that he answered here. I just want to add a little bit more because I thought he was a Google employee. He's not a Google employee. But what he's explaining is engagement on Etsy is the thing that matters. Now, they are bringing up videos a lot here, but in the main, Google is telling if it found the person the right thing in search if they click on it and they don't have to come back to Google and search again. So it's a good thing if you search for something, go to Etsy, find the thing you wanted to, and don't have to come back and do that search. So that is all that Google is caring about, to say this is the really cool thing. So conversion, it doesn't care if you convert, it doesn't care if you give a heart, just so long as you don't bounce back to Google. I hope that makes sense. Guys, jump in if I'm missing anything or you want anything more explained.
Conversion rate, but it's more engagement on the pages. So you need the right highest quality content on the pages, which really helps you with keeping them on the page.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Andrew, conversion rate on Etsy search, how does that play out?
It is so important. You've got to remember what the point of Etsy search is. It's to match a buyer with that perfect item in our huge inventory. And one of the best signals we can get from a buyer is whether or not they're willing to buy it. If they're
interrupting him here because this is it. This, in a nutshell, is Google search knows it's done a good job when you click from the search page and you don't have to come back and search again. Etsy search knows it's done a good job of showing the right thing when they show you an item, you click on it and you buy it. Addy, thank you for the question. Do they mean that affects your Etsy ranking because wants you to stay on Etsy, not go back to Google? Yeah, it doesn't. No, it doesn't impact that. What's the word I'm looking for? That engagement is Google ranking factor. When they search on Google and see something and come to Etsy, if that makes sense. So that's Google ranking. What they're talking about here now, the conversion, is Etsy ranking. Hi there, Deb. Engagement equals conversion, but we don't always see what we really search for. Exactly. And other places, Etsy have talked about this. They conversion, like buying the stuff is the most important, but liking, clicking on it, all these things are good too. But, and Deb, there's a couple of words he says very soon here that we're all going to be repeating for the next few months. Is fantastic, but just wait.
Willing to open their pocketbook and pull out a credit card and actually purchase that item, that means to us that this item is likely very satisfying for that buyer. But it's more than just that, right? It not only does that train our search algorithms, but also can earn a lot of those coveted badges, which also really help influence buyers, such as the bestseller badge, popular now, and of course that coveted star seller.
Right. I've had a few emails about this already. Last night I had this. I just want to read, because he said the conversion and all these things can help get these badges, including the star seller, which can influence buyers. Now, the words he's saying there is they can influence buyers. Now, Etsy staff can be very confusing sometimes. What they talk about is this thing helps you rank, this thing helps you rank, this thing helps customers like you, which helps you convert, which eventually helps you rank, if this makes sense. So what he's saying is the star seller badge and all these other badges, they believe can influence buyers to buy. They're not saying it helps you rank yet. That is not the words he said. I hope that makes sense to everybody, because they just hear it like we were all half listening to this, but he didn't say star seller badge ranks you. He said getting more sales and all the good stuff can increase your chance of getting a star seller badge, which slightly increases, I'm saying slightly increases the chance of buyers liking your item and converting a bit more. As they're saying, conversion is the most important. So they're doing a lot of things to explain how stuff converts when it's seen, because if you can do things that convert it. So it's not direct ranking factors. So it's not like putting the terms in your titles, it's indirect ranking factors. It's things that make your listing look better so that the buyer will buy them. I hope that makes sense, because a lot of people have questioned me about this already.
And of course, the more purchases you get, the more reviews you get, the higher the star rating you get, and that of course also really helps buyers determine when they're comparison shopping which product they're likely going to go with.
All right.
So he says it there. I mean, star rating does actually help your ranking a little bit as well, but he's saying all these things help the buyer see your listing more favorably than somebody else's.
So it's all sort of connected. So you talked about engagement being really important to Google. Does sending traffic to your shop via Google impact your visibility in Etsy?
I get asked this so much, right? I'm going to shut up. But people say this all the time. If they get a big spike in, like, if they're a YouTuber and suddenly other people accidentally see their shop and they go, see what their shop is and they go to their shop from here, then that's killed their views. Let's see what Etsy says about that.
Research?
When we send traffic to listing pages or shop pages, it doesn't impact Etsy search. Okay. Etsy search is really paying attention to when a buyer comes to the search bar on Etsy, types in a query, and engages with products. Mm-hmm. But as I mentioned before, there's more than just that. There's the star ratings, there's the review count, there's the sale count. Those are so important to buyers in helping to determine which of two products that might be similar they should go with.
Right. I hope you all got that. That is basically the conversion that is important. The conversion that's important for ranking is when someone types in the search bar, the items they see on that search results page, how well they react to them, impacts your ranking on that search term. So it's not even if people aren't clicking, if Etsy shows your listing for floral dress and dandelion frock, randomly made up things. If people click loads when they see it under dandelion frock, but they don't click when they see it under floral dress, then Etsy will go, this term ranks higher, this term ranks lower. So all the other views, not that they don't matter, they can help you get your star seller, get your badges, get reviews. And as he said, all those things help you convert. They help the likelihood when someone sees these things in search, they go, oh yeah, that person's shop looks a little bit better. That person's item looks a little bit better. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I'm actually screen grabbing that and copying it, and it's stuff I'm going to talk about like all the time. But I hope it makes sense. That's the biggie.
And of course can continue to earn you those badges I talked about before as well.
Okay, so for Google, you really want to optimize for engagement. For Etsy, you really want to optimize for conversion. It's different, but I bet there's a lot of overlap there in terms of how you optimize. All right, so Ratish, why should you optimize for Google search in the first place?
Sure. Google is a
Google's the biggest search engine in the world.
large search engine. Millions of people search on Google every day. There's a good chance that you can drive all those or much of those searches into Etsy, to your shop, to your listing pages. And the more traffic that you get on your listing page, it can definitely affect purchase patterns. So I would definitely say that look at Google as a good marketing channel that can drive a lot of visits, drive a lot of sales, and thereby improving your Etsy search also at the same time.
Yeah, this is something I hear all the time. Why should I do all the work to drive stuff to my Etsy shop? And I totally get that if you've got other places, but if you're building up if you're trying to build up everything at once, then you kind of build up nothing. So it's really good while you're building up your social media, while you're building up your understanding of Google SEO, if you funnel everything to your Etsy shop, then that gets all the extra sales and reviews and everything in your Etsy shop that boosts that up. And then once you get enough momentum, so you've built this funnel into Etsy, once you've got a lot of return customers and people have coming from that, you can send them off to your social media and be your followers and everything. So it's a good place to start.
Okay, great. So getting into more of the tactical pieces of the approach here, I want to talk about listing titles. This comes up a lot within our seller community. How long should a listing title be? And should we separate the phrases in the title by commas? Ratish, I want to start with you.
Sure. Great question. Google does not recommend an exact title length. Their title best practices is to really keep the title descriptive or concise. So pay attention to the first 50 to 60 characters of your title. That's often with what will show in Google search results. So that's really important. And then repeating the same word multiple times can look spammy. We sometimes call it keyword stuffing. So I wouldn't recommend keyword stuffing by using the same word again and again.
He's kind of wrong here. And he does clarify it later on, but he's saying using the same word again and again is keyword stuffing. It's part of it, but it's not the only thing. But they do clarify it in a minute. I know people are going to freak out. They're not saying if you sell a ring, you can't say it's a ring more than once, else Google and Etsy are going to hate it. So I'm just interjecting here. And hello, Starla. Good to see you. We're rushing to get through this so we can send everyone to Starla's bean. I don't have a live redirect here to be able to do that, but everyone knows Starla. So everyone from here is going to Starla. And so I'm trying to get through this.
Commas. And commas, it's totally fine. If it really describes the product using commas, you are free to use it and it won't affect Google SEO.
Okay, so it sounds like sellers really need to find the right balance between being descriptive, yet keeping it easy to read, concise, and then punctuation doesn't necessarily have an impact, but if it keeps the title readable, maybe you want to go with commas.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Andrew, anything to add there in terms of Etsy search?
That is such great advice that Ratish just gave. I want to add a couple of...
But this is where they really start to have the little bromance. Anyway, it's so cute.
Other things to be thinking about when you're coming up with your titles. So the thing you have to remember about Etsy is that There's multiple different experiences that buyers will see. They'll see it on iOS, they'll see it on Android, they'll see it on desktop, and they'll see it on mobile web. And each one of those experiences have a different amount of space that they can show that title. So when you're thinking about the title to actually build, really focus on those first few words, because those are what a buyer is going to look at to really understand what this product is. The second thing I'd point out is that buyers often start with images. They're looking through a page, and then if they have questions, they're not entirely sure what this product is, they'll look at that title to really help understand a bit more what it is. And so if you're in a position where you have a listing title that doesn't really describe the product well, the buyer might just be more confused than they started, and that will hurt your ability to sell to that particular buyer.
Actually, that's a really nice way of talking about it that I haven't heard anyone mention before. I mean, you want your title to be not confusing and everything, but absolutely to answer the questions because you see all the pictures, and then how often have we been like, yeah, but is that the one item, or is it the three in the picture, or are there variations or stuff? So answering questions that the picture brings up is kind of good, but the best listings are going to be ones that the picture answers all your questions if possible.
Buyer.
Your conversion rate there.
Correct.
Okay, great. I think that's really good advice. Makes a lot of sense. So yeah, keep it easy to read, yet descriptive. Make sure it is relevant. You're answering buyer questions potentially. Good stuff. Okay, now I want to talk about listing descriptions and how they impact Google SEO and Etsy SEO.
Actually, I love this. Myself and Anthony from eRank had a conversation about this morning. There's some interesting nuggets here because Etsy just started looking at descriptions maybe about 6 months, a year ago. So there's a little more data here.
We often hear about those first 150 characters. Can you both talk a little bit more about listing descriptions and the role they play in search ranking? Ratish, I'll start with you.
Sure. For Google, listing descriptions are super important. When they are actually crawling your listing page, they really go through the entire description. So it's not really the first 150 characters when it comes to Google SEO. They go through the entire information, try to understand and digest what are you really trying to sell, and then improve your rankings based on that. So I'll highly recommend that when you're writing description, you make sure that you include information like size, material, special features, technical specifications, shapes, patterns, etc. So you have enough information that you can provide to the user, so make it as clear as possible when you're writing description.
Okay, great. And how about for Etsy search, Andrew? I know this is kind of a newer thing for us.
It is. For a long time, we didn't look at description text, but over the last year or so, we've been looking at it a little bit more concretely. And as Ratish said, there's so many options and opportunities to really showcase your listing in ways that might not make sense in the listing title or tags.
Right.
We look at the first 150 characters because we know when a buyer looks at description, they're probably going to read those. We pull out.
So yeah, Etsy has told us that keeping descriptions concise and all that is important. And we do know when a listing is shown, when a customer clicks on a listing, they can only see a little bit before it drops down. But Etsy, when it said it's looking at descriptions, it's only looking at the first 150 characters. And I don't think I've seen that before, but there's more. Are we ready? There's a wee nugget in here.
Out many of the same things that Ratish was talking about, styles, material, sizings. And we don't use it for candidate matching, so that query matching phase, but we do use it to help understand if a buyer has a particular affinity toward a particular style. We might use that to help rank that.
So did you catch that? So Etsy had kind of told us that they were using descriptions for the SEO, and we kind of assumed that was like titles and tags. So it was being used for matching. But he specifically just said, we don't use what's in your description for query matching. So this explains every time we've tried to do tests with putting crazy keywords into the description and it wasn't showing up in search. So it's not being used for that. It's being used for the personalization, for kind of fine tuning it and going, what more is this about? So do not, we shouldn't be keyword stuffing our descriptions anyway. They should be descriptive for the buyer, but we don't need to worry about cramming in all those big keywords into them that are already covered in the title and the tags. It's not going to be used for that. It's kind of used for fine tuning it. So if you want to talk about different styles and the sizes and all the things that are useful for the buyer. But basically, write a good description for the buyer. That's good enough. Don't stress about it being involved in SEO. And for Google, it's the same thing. Now, he kind of, Ratish, I think his name was, kind of spoke when he's talking about what keyword stuffing is. It's not just repeating the same word. It's like trying to throw in all your keywords, not putting them into English, but just randomly throwing them in there. But, if your item is a bronze engagement ring and your keyword is bronze engagement ring, in your description, you would expect to say the words bronze and engagement ring somewhere. So you don't have a bronze engagement ring, purple engagement ring, or, you don't just stuff the words in like that, but you would start it by saying, this wonderful antique looking bronze engagement ring. You see the difference?
That item up, or perhaps down, depending on their personal interests.
Okay, so first 150 characters, important for Etsy, but really your entire description is important, especially if you're trying to optimize for Google.
100%.
Okay. Yeah, this sounds like a great place for additional keywords, maybe those that didn't make it into your title if you're trying to keep that on the concise side. Great advice. All right, so now I want to talk about keywords.
Thanks, Deb. Starla saying, I'm so glad they're clarifying this. Exactly. And yeah, that was nice what she added as well. Those extra keywords, rather than stuffing them all into your title, the less important things in your description, it is a cool place to say, this is a fantastic, and don't even just go gift for mum, gift for a lady who's completely into boho to fit in with their kitchen decor style. That makes no sense, but you know what I mean. You can add a little floral sentence. In fact, use some of the phrases that the Chat GPT or eRank's listing helper gives you that add these extra things. Are we going to get through this before Starla? I've got 15 minutes.
Stuffing. This is something Ratish brought up earlier. Let's talk about why keyword stuffing is bad, and can you tell us how it impacts Etsy search as well? We'll start with Ratish and Google search.
Yeah, so keyword stuffing for Google, it really looks like you're spamming when you're writing the same word multiple times, right? That's kind of the definition of keyword stuffing. So we definitely don't want to spam Google and confuse Google at the first time. And then again, if you think of it, it's also kind of confusing users when they end up on your pages. So if a title is using the same word multiple times, it can confuse them, it can affect their conversion or the desire to buy your product. So I would definitely recommend avoid keyword stuffing. Use as defined. Use the title tag in a way that is descriptive and concise, and help both Google and users at the same time.
Right. Really lean into variety as much as possible.
Yes.
Okay. Andrew, talk to me about keyword stuffing and Etsy search.
Keyword stuffing does not help you on Etsy.
Okay.
In fact, it might be one of the worst things you can do. And let me explain why.
Okay.
Whenever you're repeating a word or repeating a phrase, you're missing an opportunity to market your product to a different type of buyer.
Right.
We want a buyer to be able to look at this listing and look at this listing title and understand what this product is. And if you repeat things, you're not really giving them new information. So be very thoughtful about those titles. Make sure it's factual.
Cool. So he's not saying you're penalized. He's saying it wastes space that you could be using other words. So you don't need to say engagement ring 40 million times. Etsy understands it's an engagement ring. Say it enough times. I'm sure, because I listened to this last night, I'm sure they clarify this even more in a second. Oh, Deb, more tailored towards personalization and buyer's interest that might help convert for that buyer. Yeah, I think from the quarterly report as well, Etsy is wanting, all search engines are wanting to be able to tailor to more personalized and what people are looking for. And all search engines are going to be moving away from the things that we can add that can try and trick it. Like tags are going to become less and less important, and how people interact when they see it, when they see similar things. So it doesn't mean SEO is not going to be important, but it it's going to change a little bit at a time. But how the viewer, how the buyer interacts is the far more most important thing.
Make sure it's relevant. And one other thing that's really important is make sure that all the descriptors you use in that title are true to your listing. Because if they're not, you might end up getting penalized by the Etsy ranker. It'll view it as irrelevant for those types of queries.
Right, again, impacting your conversion rate. Okay, so taking a step back, how can our sellers tell if they are keyword stuffing? Can you guys define it a little bit more?
I was going to gloss over that, but where she says impacting their conversion rate, impacting their conversion for that keyword, I think they just kind of nodded and agreed with her there. Because she's got questions she's asking and they're answering, but she's not necessarily an SEO expert. So she's supposed to be doing the dumb, as she's speaking for us, as it were. So listen to what the guys say. Sometimes they'll just try and skip through her stuff.
Ratish, I'll start with you.
Sure. Google's definition of keyword stuffing is really keyword stuffing refers to the practice of filling a web page with keywords or numbers in an attempt to manipulate rankings on Google search results.
There. So he's been saying so often, it's saying the same word, it's saying the same word. It's not, it's trying to manipulate the search results by stuffing the page with lots of keywords, basically. It's trying to just throw in irrelevant keywords or too many keywords. It's not the same word. So he defined it better there.
Right? So the best practice to really look at whether you are accidentally keyword stuffing is reading your title again and again and really making sure that you're not using the same word. If you are, try to rewrite it, make it easy for both users and Google to understand what you're trying to sell, and you will be out of keyword stuffing.
It's good to, he's obsessed with saying the same word, but it's really good advice to try and read your title. If you try and read it out loud and you sound like a robot, you might be keyword stuffing a wee bit. And that's especially goes for your descriptions. Try and read them out loud. They're for people to read.
All right, Andrew, anything to add about keyword stuffing there?
Ratish gave such a great answer. I don't really have a whole lot to add. I think that advice is great.
Okay, so it's not just repeating the same word multiple times, but it's also using words and phrases that aren't relevant to your product. That's also keyword stuffing, is kind of what I'm hearing here.
That's true.
Okay. All right, and so if a seller is repeating a word more than once in the title, but it's a part of a common phrase that does describe their title, that's okay, right? That's not keyword stuffing.
Yes, that should be totally fine because it's explaining or helping the user understand the product.
Okay, so then like an example of keyword stuffing might look like personalized gift for mom, comma, personalized gift for mother, comma, personalized gift for mom, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so then like a better title might be something like personalized gift for mom with children's names.
That's a great example.
Okay, love it, great. Thank you for clarifying. That's been a hot topic. All right, so next, moving on to listing tags. Tell us about why, or maybe why not, listing tags are important to search. Ratish, I'll start with you.
Sure. Listing tags really doesn't affect rankings on Google, but it does have implications on a few other things. For example, when you're adding listing tags on your listing pages, we do use it for understanding whether we should list your product on certain market pages or other landing pages that we have on Etsy. So to answer your question, listing tags doesn't affect your listing page rankings on Google, but it does drive a lot of traffic to other landing pages, which can drive more sales to your shop.
Right, that was confusing for a minute. He's speaking as an Etsy employee. Google aren't looking at that. What he's saying is, when you search for something on Google for something you want to buy, more often than not, you won't see a single Etsy listing. You'll be shown the market page, the page on Etsy, the search results page, pretty much. So your tags are important to be included into that market page that's included into Google. I hope that makes more sense. That's kind of what he's saying there.
Okay. I've run into a few of those market pages. All right. Andrew, listing tags and Etsy search. I know they're important. Tell us more about that.
They're so important. Listing tags are used everywhere in search. We use it for query matching, we use it for query ranking. We make sure that we bring it in any place where perhaps a descriptor in a title might not make sense or a descriptor in a description might not make sense. Use all of them. It's a great opportunity to market your listing to multiple other buyers' interests. And that's actually a really important point. Don't go generic. Try to go specific with your tags. Make them multi-word. Really try to find a niche which you could really cater to better than maybe your competitors could.
Okay. Yeah. So
Again, I really like that. He's saying for the tags, what we've always said is the tags are backing up your title. So your title's super important. And then your tags are explaining that they're the things like, oh, you weren't sure, but yes, it's definitely a gift for this person. And it's definitely in this kind of theme. And it's to back it all up. Addie, thanks. glad I could help.
So you don't want to do like necklace as a tag, right? You'd want to do like birth month necklace or statement necklace, something a little more specific, right? It's going to be really hard to show up in a search for necklace. Okay, so tags, super important in different ways for Google search and Etsy search.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, and yes, remember, use all 13 tags available to you per listing, and I would take Andrew's advice.
But all 13 don't. If you've got one keyword and it's in your title and your tags, you can rank really well in search for that. You won't rank higher in search because you've got 13 keywords. You'll rank in more searches because you've got more words. Hope that makes sense.
Advice, leaning into those phrases versus those single words. The more words and phrases you've applied to your listings, the wider the array of searches they can appear in, right? Okay, now let's move on to listing images. I want to hear from both of you about the role of listing images in search ranking. And then we also have some very specific questions around having logos or watermarks, some sort of overlay on your images, and whether or not that can impact search ranking. So Ratish, I'll start with you. Talk to me about images in search ranking.
Sure. The main reason we do a lot of SEO in making sure that Google understands your images, and that helps Google drive a lot of traffic from Google Images. Logos or watermarks are not forbidden in Google Images best practices, but high quality images really matters when it comes to Google giving you the right points for Google SEO rankings.
See how you can help. Welcome aboard. Glad I'm helping. Yeah, he's got great points. If you haven't checked when you search for some things, you might not be on the front page of Google search, but you can also show up in Google image searches. And yeah, the clearer your picture and all the good SEO, they know where to show you. And this all feeds into each other. So good, clear photos. And Shannon, what if your title is wax melt? Is it okay to use it in your tags? Yes. It's not keyword stuffing to take your most important keywords from your title and put them in your tags. Absolutely, you want to do that.
And also to understand, if you're having a large logo or a watermark in your image, and the thumbnail which is shown in Google search result, if it's covering the actual image, that can affect your performance on Google SEO.
Okay. Andrew.
Yeah, and I just want to add as well, sad to say, watermarks, logos, things like that, they don't stop people nicking your image. I can remove a watermark in about 2 minutes on Photoshop, and many people don't even the people that are stealing images don't even bother getting rid of some of the logos. They might crop it down, but they don't care.
Listing images and Etsy search. Tell us about that.
Images are critical. When a buyer does a search, they're going to look through this
Photos are
grid of
so
images.
important.
High quality, well posed, well lit images do the best. Whenever you have something like a logo or some type of branding on there, it might add a lot of distracting noise to that image. And that might make it harder for that buyer to figure out what you're actually selling. So my recommendations are very similar to Ratish's, which is try to make it as high quality as you can. We don't necessarily penalize you for using it, but it's not offering the best buyer experience, and that might impact your conversion.
Right, and I know that
I don't know if they're going to mention it. I do want to say high quality doesn't mean you need an expensive camera. Some of my images that are doing the best are many, many years old. High quality means clear and appealing to the buyer. That's quality is determined by the buyer, not there's no algorithm saying, oh, this is only 4 megapixels, so it will rank lower than this one that's 8 megapixels. I hope that
like
makes
the
sense.
Etsy, that like
And
the
Tammy,
Etsy
no words
merchandising
covering your
team for
images.
editorial purposes will sometimes avoid those images that have those overlays, those watermarks. So yeah, just something to think about. I know some sellers want to use them to protect their images, but there's other kind of tricks you can do to really make sure your branding is captured there. What about listing videos? I'd love to hear your opinions on videos. This is another hot topic right now. Andrew, I'll start with you.
Videos are super awesome. When buyers come to the website and they see search results, you can see buyers spending time hovering over the videos on listings and watching those. Add them. Buyers love it. It really helps sell the product in a way that a still image can't.
Yeah, so maybe not directly impacts the search ranking, but there's that indirect conversion rate element at play there again, correct?
Correct.
Love it how she explained that. Yeah, having a video doesn't directly help you rank. It might indirectly if it leads to more sales, if it leads to more chance of a customer buying. And if they're going onto your listing and the more time they spend on your listing, the more likely they are falling in love with it. So if they're watching a video and they see your listing's awesome, that's cool.
Okay, and how about for Google?
Same answer. Very important for Google SEO. We've been doing a lot of SEO work within our team to help Google find your videos that you're posting. And it can drive a lot of traffic from Google videos. The tab that you saw on Google can drive a lot of visits. And it's also an important metadata when it comes to a listing page. So I highly recommend add a video. We'll do our job to make sure Google sees your videos.
Yeah, kind of helpful for that more, not necessarily conversion, but engagement aspect that you were talking about earlier.
Agreed.
Okay, great. So moving on to inventory now. Does the number of listings in your shop impact your SEO? Ratish, I'll start with you.
More listings, yes, more content on your pages when it comes to a shop page. So I will recommend that if you have good number of listings under your shop, your shop page will look really filled and a lot of options for users.
This again, he's saying, yeah, yes, but it's not, it won't rank you higher. It gives more fishing lines in the pond. It gives more chances to catch people. It gives a better looking shop with more options for them to go through it. Mabel the Hoodoo. Yeah, hi. There will be a replay for this, and I know Starla is starting. I just want to get through. I was trying to rush through this, but we do have to cover it. Chewy Num Num, love the name. You're saying it's unfair for sellers that have been selling hundreds of things. They're always on the front page and they have horrible tags and they're watermarked because they're making lots of sales. They're making lots of sales, so everything's good enough. Things might change in the future. But check out my video from earlier talking where it says I was wrong about Etsy. That's talking about frequency capping, which is talking about these big sellers that I keep on selling and selling and selling won't always be on the front page. Etsy does experiment with other people. Totally understand, guys, if you have to go off and watch Stylish, you'll be starting just now. We've got a few more minutes of this. I just want to listen to the video bit. I don't want to rush through it. So you can come back and get the replay. I'm happy to talk to myself, or we'll do this and then definitely go watch Stylish.
So it will definitely affect Google SEO, and highly recommend multiple listings on your shop.
Right, so like also adding that like layer of credibility to your shop just because you have more inventory.
Agreed.
Andrew, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Ritesh on this one as well. More inventory is more opportunities to sell to a buyer. One of the things you have to remember is that buyers are oftentimes looking for variations of something they might be attracted to. So having more inventory can help provide additional variations for that buyer to look at. One hot tip that it might be really helpful for sellers to know is that the search engine really likes shops which have a defined niche, you know, some type of stylistic element or some type of theme that really combines it together. And so when new listings are added for that shop, well, the search engine already knows the shop is good for those types of listings, and we'll give it an additional.
Yes. Oh, I'm so screen grabbing that bit as well. They did talk about this in the article, Your Search Questions Answered, as well, but he is specifically saying it. Basically, your shop can have authority in a certain niche. So if it really starts to recognize that you're selling similar kinds of things, when someone searches for a similar kind of thing, it can say, oh, Mabel, she's been good when we've shown her stuff before for that kind of thing. Customers have liked it. She's got a new item. Let's show it. So that is right from his mouth. He's saying shops with a defined niche can do better. Love it. I hadn't heard that bit before. I love it.
Benefit in the rankings.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about one-of-a-kind items and vintage items too, where there's not necessarily a ton of quantities available or, you know, a ton of that item for sale in the shop. So does this come into play for those types of listings?
Very much so. In fact, this is probably most beneficial for those types of sellers.
Okay, awesome.
Yes,
That's really good to know.
authority confirmed.
All right, so moving on to shipping, I want to ask about shipping price and how that impacts a listing's SEO. Let's start with you, Andrew. How does shipping impact search on Etsy?
Yeah, so shipping price is considered inside of the search ranking algorithms. And you have to put yourself in the buyer's shoes, right? If you have a $10 item that you're selling and then they get to check out and it's $20 shipping fee, that might give a buyer pause and say, oh, this is.
Etsy, you can fix this by showing the entire price. You can do this. You can show what the price is going to be, including shipping to the person in the location. Every other website does this. Anyway.
Surprising.
Then.
And so one thing I want to have sellers think about when they're figuring out the prices for their items is whether or not a buyer is going to have a great experience with it.
Yeah, great point. Ritesh, how about you? Shipping and Google SEO.
Sure, it's a great metadata within the listing page. We do share that information with Google search engines,
Yeah, sorry, but this is so annoying because when you see an Etsy listing on Google, when you see it in Google Shopping or anywhere, it says this price plus shipping. And when you see it on Etsy, it doesn't. Etsy, show the shipping price. Then customers get a good experience and we don't have to do free shipping.
It's sometimes also on a Google search engine results page. So it does matter when it comes to shipping price or shipping information because the Google user is actually seeing it before they click on your listing page and come to Etsy.
Right, so again, it plays into that engagement element.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so our last question for today, another hot topic. Does putting your shop on vacation mode impact your performance within search? Ritesh, I'll start with you there.
Yes, it can. The vacation mode on Etsy can really affect Google finding that your shop is pretty empty because we don't show any listings when it comes to a vacation when it comes to a shop which is on vacation mode. So Google has to recrawl that page after you are back from vacation in order to find that you're back active and then start ranking you again. So my advice when it comes to being on vacation mode is don't go on vacation mode for an extended period of time so that Google, every time they come, they see that you're on vacation and they have to wait for re-ranking you on Google. So take the time if you need vacation on your shop, but then be back on non-vacation mode as much as possible so that Google can come back and recall.
Okay, I'm just because anyway, everybody who's freaking out at that wee little snippet, that's for Google. We'll see what Etsy says, but don't not take time off that you need it. If you're not getting loads of views from Google, don't worry about doing the right thing by Google. Worry about Etsy. So let's see what Etsy says.
Okay, and Andrew, how does putting your shop on vacation mode impact your search ranking on Etsy?
It's a very similar answer.
Okay.
When you go on vacation mode, your listings are removed from search while you're gone. And unfortunately, that means you can't make those conversions, which helps signal to the ranker that your listings in your shop are relevant for this query. For shorter stints, it's not going to have a huge impact, but for longer stints, it can have a big impact. So much like Ratish said, be thoughtful about the time you're taking, and
Right.
when you're back, be back.
Right, it makes sense. Like when you're removing your items from search, you're missing out on those views, favorites.
We knew this on Etsy when you're on vacation, other people are getting the sales and you're not. So if you're in a super competitive search terms, you might drop away. At this time of year, if you're not getting much views from search terms, you're not likely to drop very far anyway. We'll find out. I'm going on vacation soon. Yay.
Purchases. But we know that these search algorithms are constantly crawling and re-indexing, so when sellers return from vacation mode, it should balance out over time. Yeah, it's a great tool for sellers who need to step away, but yeah, definitely something to be mindful of. All right, so just to wrap up today's session, a few key takeaways here. Keywords are critical, especially when it comes to that listing title. Also, photography plays a huge role, whether it's direct or indirect. That conversion rate element is especially important for Etsy search. And video can also be helpful, especially for Google search. Your product descriptions are also super important. You should aim to incorporate relevant keywords in the first few sentences, and you should avoid copying your title verbatim or just listing out keywords. Remember, no keyword stuffing. Instead, you want to craft a sentence or two that incorporates a few of your top keywords in a way that sounds human and written in your brand's voice. Also, optimizing your listings for Etsy search is a great start and should help you get set up for success on Google. And you can iterate over time if you'd like to grow your presence on Google with some of the additional tips and insights that Ratish shared with us today. I want to give a big thank you to Ratish and Andrew.
Okay, cool. We did it. Right. Okay, that was pretty cool. Sorry I ran slightly late. So those of you that are left, totally, once we've finished here, you need to get over to Starla Moore on YouTube. It's her Friday Bean, and I meant to get this in before the bean, but we ran on a bit because I didn't see a good place to stop. But it was all good stuff. So there is loads of good points. Yeah, I was totally trying to combine this all into an overview and a nice little recap, but I thought it was actually easier just to do this live, just to talk about it live, and we'll pick out the points later. It was Friday. I was struggling. So I hope that helped explain it all. There's some really cool things there, and some things that were potentially a little confusing. So remember, there's a difference between ranking. There's a difference between things you can do to help you rank, which is like put the keywords in your title, have good customer support, and things that help you convert. And converting, which means making sales, is good. It helps Etsy and They specifically, I'm going to say this is the last point because they specifically said this. People coming in from Google or coming in from anywhere else doesn't matter, doesn't hurt your shop. The conversion that is good for your shop is how your listings convert when seen in the search for that keyword. Anyway,